Welcome to Tell Me Your Story, the Real Impact Daily Inspiration Series. I'm Richard Dugan along with Dennis Henson. And Dennis, here we go again. Another one of these wonderful inspirational stories from your book, the first volume of potentially three. Who knows where it'll go, but it's great to have you back with us.
Thank you, Richard. It's always fun.
Absolutely. Well, today we're going to dive into a story having to do with someone who basically, we'll find out whether they were blacklisted or not. Basically, has to do with a gentleman that is said he will never work in Hollywood again.
He'd never work in Hollywood again. Steve Allen was not a good high school student. His grades were so bad that his application to the University of Southern California were rejected 3 times. After failing to gain entrance to USC, he enrolled at California State University. However, he wasn't a very good college student either, so he dropped out to pursue a movie career. He made numerous attempts to break into the industry, again facing rejection. Even though he was determined to make movies his career, he settled for TV shows and short films. Noticing his excellent work, Universal Studios granted him an internship. After some of Universal's executives previewed one of his short films, they signed him to a 7-year contract. Despite being the youngest director ever hired, he was able to amass many commercially successful and critically acclaimed credits. His first major film came in 1974 when he was only 27 years old. However, that production was plagued by every imaginable problem. The word in Hollywood was that the young director had lost control of his project. And he had. The cost of the film skyrocketed, causing him to overspend his budget by 300%. Even worse, his shooting schedule of 55 days drug on for more than twice that long. When the movie was finally in the can, rather than being elated, Steve suffered an anxiety attack. It's easy to see why. He was sure that he'd never work in Hollywood again. Yet without his knowledge, the Universal Studio executives took a unique approach to promoting his movie. Shortly before it hit the theaters, they placed numerous 30-second primetime TV spots. So, in June of 1975, 3 nights before the release, every major television network's air was flooded with primetime trailers. The results were astonishing. Steve's first major film, Jaws, quickly brought in over $100 million and broke the records of both The Godfather and The Exorcist. Jaws ultimately grossed $260 million in the U.S. alone, and Stephen Allen Spielberg became one of the most influential directors in cinema history and one of the world's wealthiest filmmakers. His early work in television and short films paid off by laying the groundwork for the wellspring of talent that dazzled audiences for many years. And the University of Southern California, who rejected his application 3 times, awarded him an honorary doctorate and made him a member of their board of counselors. Author's note: if you're enjoying these stories, more are available at DennisJHenson.com. I don't dream at night. I dream all day. I'm dreaming for a living. Steven Spielberg.
Well, I'll tell you, it's interesting how, again, the resilience, as well as knowing what an individual wants, those are sort of the keys to what we've been talking about here on this series of programs with you, Dennis. And it's remarkable. I know of him. I've never met him, but some of the things that he created over his career were some of the funniest things I have ever seen in my life. It's just incredible.
That's right. When somebody knows what they want and they're centered in on it and they're willing to do whatever it takes to get there, that's 98% of the trip. So many people go through life and never really determine. They think, well, why am I here? What's the purpose of life? When the truth is, the answer to that question is desire. If you have a desire and you act on the desire and you turn it into a burning desire, then it's amazing what you can accomplish.
It really is. I think about even my career and the processes that I've been through over the over 45 years that I've been doing this. And I mean, I can even take it back before then to doing, even as a teenager and even as a kid. And it's some of the successes that I had in regards to just accomplishing what I was doing at that time, not having yet figured out what it was that I wanted. Do you find that that's sort of a, a helpful characteristic to develop so that when you do know what you want, you've already got that background history, if you will, of accomplishments that says, I can do anything or I can do a lot of things and what have you.
People are put on this earth with certain talents. Well, when I teach a symposium or a 3 or 4 day event, one of the things I have the attendees do is write down 20 things that they're good at. Are you good at writing? Are you good at speaking? Are you good at playing basketball? And that's kind of hard to do. It's hard. It's easy to do 2 or 3, but to have to write 20, that's more difficult. Then I have them prioritize the list. Then I have them write down 20 things that they love. If you could be or do anything in the world, make a list of 20 things that you would do or be, or. So once they've done that, I have them prioritize that list. Then I have them take the 2 lists and put them together and say, okay, now look at the top 5 things that you're really good at and the top 5 things that you'd really like to do, and see which of those fit together the best. And then think about it, contemplate on it a minute and say, would that be something that you could create a burning desire to do? And if they say yes, I say, well, you're 90% there now. So head in that direction. It's probably why you're here in the first place.
Mm. Well, I know that people in the entertainment industry are many of them, most of them, I would say, are very tenacious. They already kind of know what they want, and he was in the, I don't know how early the stages were, but he was still in the infancy or at least the childhood stages, if you will, of the entertainment industry back in the 50s.
That's right. And he started he started young, right out of, well, he didn't really finish college, so it was kind of right out of high school and working in TV. And he had talent. And so Universal executives saw the talent and they said, well, let's bring him in and give him a contract. But that didn't mean he was going to be successful.
No.
It just meant he had an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
But he took advantage of the opportunity and worked very hard, although he had some problems along the way. It turned out well for him.
Do you when you start looking back at this or any other story of the stories that we've either covered or will cover that are in your book, which is of course Real Impact Daily Inspiration, do you sometimes see yourself, or see certain aspects of that particular person in yourself as you have developed and grown into the person that you've become?
Yes, I can look back over my life and I can see days. I think about this often when my whole life, the direction of my life changed in that day. And that's happened over and over again. When I was in high school, then I decided I wanted to be in the drum section at Jacksonville. In order to get there, I had to go to college. So I changed my plan and worked to get into college. Then I got into college and became part of the drum section. And then we had tryouts one day for drum major. I never even thought about being the drum major. And so during that tryout, the drummers pushed me out there and said, hey, go try out. And so I did, and I really made a fool of myself. It was really awful. They laughed. The drummers were laying on the ground, rolling around, beating the drums, laughing. And I looked at them and I thought, they won't laugh at me the next time we have one of these tryouts. So the next year I was assistant drum major, and the following year I was the drum major. My life changed that day because they laughed at me, and I thought, well, I can be as good a drum major as the one we got now. And so I became that. Then I wanted to be a college band director. I got to be a high school band director, and then I got my master's degree. I taught at a big high school. We had lots of success, and I was invited to become a college band director. Well, then I was hired by a big company, and I wanted to become a successful salesman. So, your life changes a number of times, and it helps if you already have talent in the area that you're trying to move into. It helps. It's not necessary. What's necessary is a desire. Even if you don't have the skill, or even if you're not built, like the story of Rudy, where he wanted to play at Notre Dame. Well, he wasn't built to play college football. He was short and didn't have the grades to get into Notre Dame, but he did. He got into Notre Dame, made the team, and actually got to play in a game. So I think the point is this in most of these stories, in this one especially. He knew what he wanted. He wanted to be in the movie industry. Same way with Walt Disney. He knew he wanted to be in the movie industry. He wanted to be respected by all the people in Hollywood. And he ended up with more awards than any other person that's ever been in Hollywood. I can't remember how many. It's like 27 Oscars or something like that. So I guess one of the points is the first of the 7 secrets, and that is get your mind right, know what you want, develop a burning desire, and everybody get out of the way because you're coming.
Yeah. The train has left the station and it's going at breakneck speed. So you either jump on board or get the heck out of the way. There's a saying there, right?
Exactly.
So very important. This is the Real Impact Daily Inspiration Series on Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan. He is Dennis Henson, and we're going to continue talking about the work that you can get a copy of, and I will tell you about that as we continue here on Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan here with Dennis Henson, and the way that you can get involved in what we're doing here is get yourself a copy of the book, and it is called Real Impact Daily Inspiration. You can go to realimpactbook.com. You can actually get yourself a free copy. It's a Kindle version by going to the bottom of that page, realimpactbook.com. Click on the podcast attendee link and put your email in, and they will send you a link to download your free ebook version. If you have unlimited Kindle, you can also get a free version of the book Real Impact. And you can also purchase, if you'd like, a copy in hardcover or paperback. We hope that you will. And it's also available, too, in Audible, which is really kind of cool. And that's obviously what we're bringing to you in each one of these programs, the Audible version of each of these stories, which is really kind of nice to be able to do. We also encourage you to check out the other links, including the wonderful little story about the lamp that is on the front cover of the book, Real Impact, Daily Inspiration. There are several other links there to where you can be notified. Now, this is where you would get additional contact from Dennis by going to the page or the link where you want to be notified when his next book, his next work is available to you and so forth. And we'll talk later about this special program for kids that I think is wonderful. I have to tell you, Dennis, that I have so many books that I have collected just over the 19 years that I've lived here in Santa Barbara doing interviews. I offloaded a bunch of books before we moved to Santa Barbara from Phoenix. And I was actually able to find a bookstore or two that actually took them off my hands for, I don't know if it was pennies on the dollar, what have you, but it was a few dollars. It was kind of nice. but at least the books, which are in excellent condition, went into the hopper for them, that then other people could read. So I've got a bunch of books here in Santa Barbara that I'm going to begin that process of doing sort of the same kind of thing, in terms of maybe just donating them to either a library or a used bookstore that doesn't purchase them. Regardless, I'll say, hey, you know what? I can't use them. I've read them, or I've interviewed these folks, and it's time to let them go. Well, that's kind of what we're going to be talking about a little bit later on, in a manner of speaking, with this very special project for the kids, as we continue here on Tell Me Your Story, the Real Impact series. Dennis, as we continue on talking about these different stories, and of course this story in particular about how he'd never make it in Hollywood, the Steve Allen story, if you will. That's a rather interesting phrase, and sometimes it's not specifically he or she will never make it in Hollywood. It's he or she will never make it. You fill in the blank. And for a lot of different reasons. You're too tall, short, fat, thin, white, black, whatever, Catholic, Jewish, whatever the philosophical, economic, and the list goes on and on and on. And yet, these folks, like Steve, in a manner of speaking, that was sort of a no, and he and others refused to take no for an answer.
Well, that's true. So once you've determined what you want to do and you focus on it and you have a burning desire, those kind of negative comments just kind of roll off your back like water off a duck's back, and you're no longer working. It's funny, people don't like to work. They complain about working, and that they go to work, they feel like I just have to work. Well,
Yeah.
you don't have to work. What you can do is, if you determine your purpose in life and it's something that you really love, you look forward to getting up every morning and going and sitting down and getting into the process, and it's fun. So you have to go to fun. You're not going to work, you're going to fun, and other people call it work, but to you, it's not work. I was thinking the other day, I can't remember when I worked. It's been that long. I enjoy what I'm doing so much. I guess I can remember in 2005, I was working for a large company. And when I left them, I went full-time in real estate and was my own boss. And from that day till this, it's just been fun. So I guess it's been 20 years since I really put in a day of work. And the only reason really I enjoyed what I was doing, but I didn't enjoy having a boss. I don't like to report to people. I don't like, them looking over my back and judging me. So to me, I guess that was work. But, that's 20 years ago. And those 20 years passed just like that because I was having fun.
Yeah.
Most of my life has been fun because I haven't had a job working for someone else.
Well, I can agree with you and attest to the same thing in my life. And there have been one or two jobs that I was doing that they weren't the most fun that they could have been, but they were sure interesting. You think, well, how is being an X-ray film developer in the Veterans Hospital, how is that related to broadcasting or, doing interviews and so forth? Well, if I dig deep enough, I can find something that will connect it, and that's something else too, Dennis, that I'd love to talk about a little bit. And that is all of these different things that we have done down through our days on the planet. And from my perspective, there is never any wasted time, and there is never any time when we aren't taking in information that is going to help us down the road. We just don't realize it at the moment, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, if you use this book to form the habit of reading something positive every day that moves you toward your goal, you're going to learn something every day. And it's an organized plan. It's to turn a habit into learning, which is the second of the seven secrets of success, to seek wisdom. Now, you can just passively receive wisdom, or you can actively seek wisdom. And if you actively seek wisdom, Zig Ziglar said, little by little, a little becomes a lot.
Mm.
You just read 20 pages of a 200-page book every day. By the end of the year, you will have read 20 books, which is 19 more than the average person. Well, that'll set you apart. I
Yeah.
mean, it really will. If everybody else is reading one book and you're reading 20, it won't be long before people start seeking out your information, your knowledge. They want to know you. They want you to help them because you know a lot and people respect you for it.
Yeah. And it to me it is it's actually kind of cool. I mean, I don't some might consider me an expert. I don't. I'm not an expert because I'm still learning. I figure the day I leave the earth, I will have become an expert. And hopefully I have left it all here with others.
Yeah.
In other words, there's a sort of like that's one of those things I don't want to take with me, you know. I want to leave that behind for other people to use. It's like uh, I actually have I have two toolboxes. One actually stacks on the other. I can't believe the number of tools that I have just in those two boxes that I've carried around. I have a feeling I may even have some tools that my father had. How I got them, I will never know. But he didn't take them with him. And so I'm hoping that I can take those toolboxes and give them to somebody else before I leave, so that they can use them for however they want. And I get the sense from a lot of folks that not everybody thinks that way. A lot of people get very territorial with what they know and what they've learned and so forth. And because they're afraid that they're going to lose something by sharing what they're sharing. Do you think that by doing that, they're sort of stifling or cutting off their own growth, if you will, their own evolution on so many different levels?
Well, I don't think Zig Ziglar called that stinking thinking.
I love it. I love it.
I don't think that's a good way to think.
Right.
It, help other people as much as you can. I
Yeah.
often tell people on these podcasts, I'll say, I didn't write this book to make $1 million.
Right.
I wrote this book to help 1 million people. And that's
Mm.
why I give it away. I mean, I give away lots of copies every day. And what I hope people will do is they'll read a little bit of it and they'll think, oh, wow, that's great. My nephew's graduating from high school. This will really help him.
Hmm.
Or my niece is graduating from college. I give this to her. Maybe it will help her.
Hmm.
Or maybe they have an aunt that or an uncle that's in a nursing home and say, well, why don't I give this to them? They enjoy reading. They know these people. They can read these stories and share them with the other people in the nursing home. So there's a little bit of an ulterior motive in giving the books out. But part of the ulterior motive is I want to leave the world in a better place than when I showed up. Now
Yeah.
I'm 77, 30 years from now, I'll be gone. But people can still read the books that I'm writing. I just finished another one called um, "The Laws of the Laws of Nature for Success." I just finished it and I'm polishing it right now. And it'll probably, what is this, March, April, May, probably May 1st will be out. And it's about 100 pages, but it's a powerful book. And I started writing it 50 years ago, and I'm just finishing it up now. So that might be something that can help people also.
Well, I'll be honest with you. It is an exciting time. Now, it can be an exciting time anytime, regardless of what's going on in the world or even in one's life. And it's like the stinking thinking doesn't help you. So why not turn it around and help yourself. One of the fascinating things for me is letting go of, and I think I've mentioned this before, there's a difference between anticipation and expectation. And anticipation is, man, I can hardly wait till I reach my goal. Expectation is putting a very specific, shall we say, a very specific form to that goal. In other words, this is how I want it to look. And letting go of the expectations because you have no idea. That does not mean that you don't have a goal. That does not what it means. It just means that you are looking forward to however it's going to manifest, but you know, like I want to, let's just say, uh, I want to have $1 million in the bank. Let's just say that's your goal.
Right.
You don't know how that's going to happen. I mean, is it going to come through my paycheck at work? Probably not. Okay. Not unless you're in a high paying position. But it may come in so many other ways. And I think the anticipation allows you to be open to however the universe brings it to you. I mean, we could certainly throw in the whole divine intervention aspect that we've talked about many times on this program, right? I mean, that's to me that's for me anyway, that's a key. Let go of the expectation, hang on to that anticipation.
I totally agree. Visualizing things in your mind makes them happen quicker.
Mm-hmm.
I can remember, I worked on this book for 6 years, and I
Yeah.
can remember thinking one day I'm going to hold, I can just, the picture I'm seeing right now on the screen of myself holding this book up, that was a dream. One day this is all going to be done, and I'm going to hold this book in my hand, and here I am, and here it is.
Yeah.
And I also thought one day I'll walk into my office. If you could see my office, there's probably 20 of these books, paperback, and they're all everywhere getting ready to be shipped or, in various stages of whatever. And I could visualize walking in my office and seeing all that among all of the other books that I have. And it's real. It's here. It's now. And
Wow.
other things that I visualize are moving at light speed in my direction, and having this podcast is, part of that happening.
Well, we're excited to be a part of that as well, and we're going to continue our conversation here with Dennis Henson. I'm Richard Dugan. I also go by Reverend Dr. D, and we are here talking about real impact, daily inspiration here on Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan with Dennis Henson, along with the book, Real Impact, Daily Inspiration, that is, as Dennis has already told us, scattered across his office in many different forms, as it were. I want to ask you something that was asked of me, and as far as the publishing of my book. Was there ever a moment that once the book was published, once the box of books, the very first copies, which I'm sure you acquired, were sent to you, arrived, and it was time for you to open up. Did you have any kind of a moment that you, maybe even as you're opening the book, the box, it was like, this is a sacred moment. My goal. I've met my goal, and you're opening the box and boom, there's the book and so forth. Because someone asked me if I had any kind of ritual or sacred moment and so forth regarding the book. And in a way I did, because I have a short little video up on, I want to say up on Facebook, where I set up my camera and I had the video rolling and I had the box in my hand. I hadn't opened it yet because I'd seen many other people do this, where they would actually video the opening of the initial copies of their book. And maybe it was their very first book, such as it was mine. And so now I posted that up on the web for all to see, and holding it up, and and it was really exciting. Did you have something like that for yourself and your book?
Not really, because my goal was not just to publish the book, my goal was to get 1 million copies in 1 million people's hands. So I'm still right in the middle of the whole thing. But
Right.
that was a nice step.
Yeah.
But it was just a step in the process. It's an ongoing process. So I was happy to get past that because it was really, really tough. I thought it was going to take 2 to 3 months. It took 6 years. When I finally saw the actual product, but I went way out of my way to make the book nice.
Yeah.
The very best paper, the very best binding. I mean, you can get books where you open them up and they crack and they stay open to that page. This is not that kind of book. And the first book that I had printed of The Real Impact, it was a sample from China. I opened it and I thought, this is cheap. I'm not having this. And so I found with the help of a friend, I found a printer, second largest printer in America, and was really lucky that they accepted and printed the book, and they did such a wonderful job. And it's beautiful inside and out.
Absolutely.
I'm very proud of it.
That's an interesting point that you make, and that is that a lot of folks would probably look and say, hey, well, at least it's out. All right, so it's not the best paper, and it cracks when it opens, and even the glue starts to separate, and on and on and on, whatever it is. And well, at least it's out now, and you should be proud of that. And it's like, well, yeah, but no. It's yeah, okay, so it's out, but it doesn't look and feel the way that I would like a book to look and feel if I was going to buy it in a bookstore. It's like I'd want my money back, you know? I feel the same way in that respect. I have a hard copy of my book. Strangely enough, I carry it around in my briefcase. It goes with me everywhere I go. And every once in a while, I'll pull it out and I'll feel it and I'll open it up and look at some of the pictures and read some of the words and so forth and go, hey, this is pretty cool, and then I have a couple of paperbacks in my car. I actually gave one to a good friend of mine just recently, and and that just occurred to me, I actually have forgotten to sign it for her. So when next time I see her, I've got to sign the book for her, which actually she will be the first one for whom I have signed. But it's fascinating, and it was so important to me, Dennis, to share this in one sense with my family. I wanted to send one to my brother, but he was living in Vietnam. And I thought, well, the postage can't be that much because this was the paperback version, and so I'm there at the counter, and the next thing you know, I'm going, wow, the postage is 4 times what the book cost. But hey, it was Christmas. I didn't care. Of course, then I found out just a few weeks ago, he never got it. But
Oh,
I figure somebody did, so I hope that they are able to read it and so forth. And what'll happen is when my brother gets back to the States, there will be a copy of it waiting for him at my mother's, and the postage will be much, much less to ship to Phoenix than all the way to Vietnam. But there's just something about it's like it's an extension of you. It's
it is.
almost an appendage.
It is. It is. Yeah. It's a very
Yeah.
powerful thing. If you really spent time on the book, then it means an awful lot to you. I know that there's people that get on AI and say, write a book about this, and then they print it and post it, and that's about what it's worth, nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Well,
had given this book out to a certain mailing list, and somebody wrote me back and said, well, if it's free, it's not worth anything. And I didn't answer them because I don't lower myself to, comment on stuff like that. But I did think a few things. I thought, well, air's free. Why don't you, try to get along without that?
yeah, very good. Very good. Well, well, I'll tell you, Dennis, it's a wonderful process that we take ourselves through when we say, I want to write a book, and I want to write a book about. Now, I will share with you just briefly here. I just interviewed a gentleman talking about using AI, and I loved what he said, and he actually helped me to shift my bias against AI. He said, from his perspective as an author, and he uses AI, AI is your first draft,
Yes.
and now the rest is up to you. And I thought, okay, I can live with that. I can live with that. And I'm going to actually, and I'll share this with you down the road. And once I get going, I'm actually going to see what I can see what will happen when I find the right program to do this. And I know there's some pretty popular ones, and put in the parameters, and then see what comes out, and then go from there. And just have some fun with it, because I will tell you, it's like what you just said about how you have not had a job in your life. I feel the same way. Even when I was working for some of those companies, that it wasn't as much fun as say being a paper boy, because I love that, or doing what I'm doing now. Um, but you want to make sure that if you want to write, make sure it's fun. Because if it's a drudgery, you need to stop. Because there's a real belief, Dennis, by a lot of folks, including myself, that when you start feeling those frustrations, you start feeling the angst, you start feeling the pressure and the stress, that comes out in the book. And people will feel it when they read it. Whereas if you're having fun with it, so are they. And they're going to enjoy it, and the universe is going to open up doors. Like you were just saying before, you're having stuff happen to you sometimes at lightning speed you never expected in your entire life. That's exciting.
It is. It is. Yeah. I didn't use AI at all with this first book. The books I'm writing now, AI makes a great proofreader.
Excellent.
And it's cheaper than hiring someone to do it. But you give it to AI and say, here, read this, correct all the errors and punctuation and redundancies and tenses, and it does, and leaves it basically the way you wrote it in the first place, but it takes out the errors,
Yeah.
which is it's nice. And sometimes it'll make comments and say, you might want to consider doing this. Well, it's your choice.
Mm-hmm.
Or not. So yeah, it's become kind of a friend. I talk with it and it talks back to me. So
I love that.
kind of friend because it doesn't ever critically judge you. It just tells you what it thinks. Yeah.
Well, that's a good thing. Dennis Henson, my guest, author of Real Impact Daily Inspiration. This is the Tell Me Your Story Real Impact series. As we continue with Dennis, I'm Richard Dugan. Don't go away. I'm Richard Dugan here with Dennis Henson, and it's the Real Impact Daily Inspiration Series, and we're talking about a lot of different aspects. And it's interesting that you talk about this again. This gentleman that I interviewed about AI and how he uses it, he says that a lot of people do not seem to understand that we have been using AI for a very long time. And I said, "Oh, really?" And he says, "Yeah." Spell check or the text correct in your texting. We've been using that. That's AI. And of course, I thought, well, what about macros in Microsoft Word? You set those up, or hotkey commands to carry out a function. Well, not really, no, because that's a little different. But like I said, it's one of those things, and I will share with you in the audience that I even opened the interview up by saying from the get-go that I had a bias against AI. But I'm hoping my guest will help me to better understand what AI really is. And he did. And I was open to receiving that information. I'm curious, as we come to the close to the end of our time here together today, as we've been talking about Steve Allen and his story of of resilience and commitment to the goal, his goal. That how you you've already talked about how you use AI and so forth to make things happen, and like you said, it proofreads for you. And I realize that this is, but it isn't necessarily far afield from what we're talking about. But you have now utilized it as a tool to accomplish your goal.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, yes. I use it more and more every day, not to write a book,
Hmm.
but to aid in writing the book. Because, I mean, you're going to probably pay somebody to proofread and to format and to, make suggestions about what goes in and out. AI will do all that. But if you write the basis of the book, it's still your book. AI just helped you polish it a little bit. But before our time runs out, let's tell everybody about helping the children. Okay, so if you go to realimpactbook.com, the first link there is the mystery of the lamp. You should click on that and listen. That's a very interesting tab. Then move down about 3 more tabs and it says help the children. You click on that, it takes you to a GoFundMe account.
Hmm.
If you want to donate $1 or $10 or $50 or $1,000, whatever amount you put in, all of that money will be used to purchase books to give to people in disadvantaged communities, mostly children, schools that don't have large budgets in disadvantaged communities, nursing homes, senior citizen centers, and libraries in small towns. I know there's a lot of towns that have local libraries that don't have big budgets,
Hmm.
but this is the kind of book that would really be helpful for those libraries to have in there that people could check out and read. So if you want to help a lot of people, you can do that. Another way that you can be nice and help people would be, let's say you read Richard's book. It's Choices. Is that right,
That's
Richard?
correct. Yes. Hmm.
Choices, and you think, oh, this is great. It would help a lot of people. Go find it on Amazon, leave it a 5-star rating, and say, I love Choices by Richard Dugan for this reason.
Hmm.
And you will have made his day. You
Yeah.
will have made him feel good, but you will also help a lot of other readers understand, hey, this is what someone liked about this book. I might like this book too.
Hmm.
So I think helping people and being nice to people will come back to you 100 times. I think it's a law of nature that if you plant a seed, you're going to get a lot more back of that particular seed. So if you don't have any money, but you still want to make someone's day, go give some good ratings on Amazon. But if you have a few dollars, donate it and let's help some children with continuing education or child literacy or people who are in nursing homes or senior citizen centers. So
Absolutely.
keep that in mind.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's inspiration is needed at all levels, at all ages, to be honest with you. And of course, I love the idea of continuing education. And I'm always talking about continuing education, and that's part of the choices aspect too. In that, what choices do we have? Well, do you know? Can you list 10 choices that you could make for a particular situation? How about five? And if you don't know of any, well, then do some research. That's kind of what you had a choice as to which stories you were going to incorporate into your book, and how you were going to format them in terms of, okay, is this going to be a short little 1 or 2 pager, or is this going to go on for 15 or 20 pages? And of course, we've already talked about Abraham Lincoln, and that went on for quite a few pages. And we did an entire month of Abraham Lincoln, and we'll probably do an entire month, if not more, on Walt Disney, because his is a long story, because his was a most incredible life. It really was. And what he created and how he changed the lives of people. not just in terms of the company that he created, but the amusement parks where people could go to get away from it all, as it were, and have some fun and not have to think about anything and just relax and let go of all of the stress and tension and so forth and have fun as a family, have that family outing and those memories. So, you just never know what's going to happen. Dennis, thank you so much once again for being with us here on the program, and we look forward to getting together again next time.
Thank you for having me. As always, great time.
And I thank you for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World, where we are giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. And until our next broadcast, podcast, videocast, love to all. Jeanette, I am still listening. Dad, continue to be happy because I am. Mike, thank you for letting me be in your life. Smokey, I will see you on the other side. And to my dear friend Zorro, aho, aho.